This movie has some of the craziest stunts ever. Okay, so this movie's going full crazy right away. Owen Shaw is alive after getting totally blown up in the last movie? No way. But sure, if the movie's gonna be totally crazy, it's cool if it just leans into it. I guess the important part is that his brother Deckard Shaw is really mad that Owen got blown up, so he's gonna do something about it. Dom brings Letty to Race Wars, the big illegal racing event from the first movie. He lets Letty use his car to race and she wins, but Letty gets a little overwhelmed by the attention. Being in that place jogs her memory a bit, and to be fair, that was the idea, but she remembers a lot of traumatic stuff, so Letty gets upset, punches a guy, and leaves with the car. Meanwhile, Brian is adjusting to life as a dad. He's driving a minivan and dropping his kid off at school. You get the sense that things are going to be different for Dom and his family after this movie. Letty goes to the cemetery where her gravestone is. Dom goes over there with a big hammer and he's ready to break the gravestone, but Letty is like, hey, I basically died that day since I lost my memory, so I gotta leave and figure out who I am since you're in love with the version of me that was here before. So she leaves and Dom is sad now. Then there's a nice scene with Hobbs and Elena where Hobbs is bored with a desk job and Elena gets a new job, so she's leaving. Hobbs says bye, and when he gets back inside, he sees that guy Shaw broke in and is looking stuff up on his computer. Shaw is there to get the info on the team that got Owen blown up, and Hobbs is like, nah, it was just me. So they fight. Hobbs is a really big guy, but Shaw is pretty tough. Elena comes in to help, but Shaw throws a grenade and causes a big kaboom, and Elena is fine, but Shaw gets away and Hobbs gets injured. Dom talks with Mia at the Toretto house as Brian is taking the kid to school, and Mia is worried since Brian is having trouble adjusting to a calm, peaceful life, and she's secretly pregnant with kid number 2. Dom says it'll be okay, but then he gets the call from Shaw as Shaw is about to blow up Han in Japan. Dom realizes that a package that recently got delivered to the house is a bomb, and he manages to save Mia, but it was a close call, and the Toretto house gets completely blown up. Dang, now it's personal. Dom goes to the hospital to visit Hobbs. He sees Elena and it's all romantically tense and awkward since Dom was with Letty again for a minute and Elena moved on, but did she though? And did Dom move on? Dom's romantic life is complicated. Maybe instead of living life a quarter mile at a time, Dom should consider thinking ahead a little more so he and his family get in less trouble. Just a thought. Dom says hi to Hobbs, and Hobbs gives Dom a file on Shaw and tells him that Shaw is like the toughest guy ever. He says, hey Dom, my official recommendation is for you to leave this alone. But yeah, I'm mad at Shaw and he tried to kill your family, so my bro recommendation is do what you gotta do. So Dom makes sure Brian and Mia and the kid get relocated to a safe house, and Mia's like, yeah, I know Brian needs on an emotional level to help with this, so please take care of it and get him home safe so then I can tell him about kid number 2. Then Mia tells Brian, hey, go help Dom and protect our family and we'll be all good. But this is your last job, Brian. Uh-oh. She said the magic words. That means things are gonna get all crazy, doesn't it? So Dom goes to Tokyo and the movie officially brings all the Fast and Furious stuff full circle. He talks with Sean, the guy from Tokyo Drift who was Han's buddy, and gets the stuff from Han's crash site. Then Dom and Brian and Roman and Tej are all reunited in Los Angeles to mourn Han and Giselle. But Dom sees Shaw spying on them, so he chases Shaw out of the cemetery. They find this secluded area and they face off, and Dom and Shaw drive straight ahead towards each other. It's like a game of chicken, a bald guy face off, but neither guy moves, so they have a head-on collision. Then Dom and Shaw are somehow not seriously injured, so they get out of their cars. Shaw is like, you should never mess with the man's family, and Dom is like, yeah, that's why I told your brother. He didn't listen, so he got blown up. They're about to fight, but then some military guys show up and Shaw gets away. The military guy's leader is named Mr. Nobody. He says, hey Dom, we need you and your team to help since there's this thing called God's Eye that's like this magic computer program that can track anybody anywhere, and this person named Ramsey who created it has been captured by a terrorist named Mose Jakande. He wants Dom to help get Ramsey out of the terrorist clutches, and in return he'll use his military guys to help defeat Shaw. Dom is like, okay fine, but I need my team. And Mr. Nobody is like, yeah, I already talked to them. They'll be here in 2 seconds. So Brian, Roman, and Ted show up and start talking about plans for the operation, and Roman starts running his mouth and saying goofy stuff. Ted gets an actual idea though, and the team is happy since they're about to get cool cars. Dom is particularly happy though, since Mr. Nobody got Letty to come back and join the team too. Oh yeah, there we go. Now they really got the whole crew. Team Dom is ready for action. Let's do this. So what are they gonna do? They don't say right away. They just show Team Dom in their cars in some dark place. You're wondering, huh? Where they at? Then a cargo hatch opens and we see a shot of a plane. And then we realize that Team Dom is in their cars on a plane. And I'm like, what? Why is Team Dom on a plane? Then Team Dom starts driving the cars off the plane. What the heck? Why would they do that? They're all gonna fall like thousands of feet and go splat and kaboom and die horribly. Roman is hesitating. He's like, nah, bro, I can't do this. And I get it. I'm Sir Dinosaur from Planet X, and back on Planet X, Mama Dinosaur asked me, if your friends all jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? And I said, no, that would be super dumb. But apparently, Team Dom all just drove their cars off a plane, which is kind of similar when you think about it. Anyway, Roman has to drive out of the plane anyway, and this is the part where the movie officially becomes awesome. All the cars release parachutes so they land close enough to the armored bus where Ramsey is being held captive. So Team Dom jumped their cars out of a plane and sneaked up on the bad guys. This is so funny. Even better, Roman released his parachute too late since he was scared, so he's just floating around in the middle of nowhere. Turns out the armored bus has all these other vehicles with bad guys and guns and stuff, so it's a pretty intense fight right away. Team Dom has military gear in their cars now, so they break into the armored bus. Then Brian gets out of his car through the windshield while it's still driving. Tej rear ends Brian's car, so it propels him forward, and Brian goes flying into the armored bus. Then Brian fights off the bad guys and finds Ramsey. Turns out Ramsey is a lady and she's kind of young and freaked out. Brian throws Ramsey onto the hood of Dom's car, but one of the bad guy cars slams into him, and turns out Shaw is the driver. Shaw is working with the terrorist guy, and Brian is stuck in the armored bus because there's like this athletic martial arts bad guy in there. The plan is going bad, you guys. Dom and the other cars drive down into the woods, super off course, like crashing through trees and stuff. Shaw is chasing them, and yeah, Dom is kind of at a disadvantage here, since Dom's mission is to protect people, but Shaw's mission is just to kill Dom. So Shaw can be more reckless. Back up at the road, Brian is still fighting the martial arts guy, and Letty is up there too, trying to stay with him. But Brian and the martial arts guy's fight accidentally kills the driver and activates weapons, and the armored bus gets super out of control and heads towards a cliff. The martial arts guy gets away and he's like, haha, while Brian's still in the bus and it's about to fall off the cliff. The bus stops like halfway off the cliff. Meanwhile, Dom and Shaw are still crashing through the trees, but Roman finally lands and crashes into Shaw, so Shaw gets wrecked. Haha, suck it, Shaw. But Brian is about to fall off a cliff still. The bus is starting to slide off the cliff, so Brian climbs out the end and runs towards the cliff as the bus is falling off, and Brian takes a flying leap right as the bus goes totally over the cliff, and Brian is flying through the air, but Letty shows up and she drifts towards the edge of the cliff, so Brian catches the back of her car and he gets back on land, safe and sound, and I'm like, oh yeah! It's still not over though, because a lot of bad guy cars have Dom cornered at a different cliff. That Chakande guy steps out of the car and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty impressed to be honest. Give us the girl and I'll let you live. Dom tells Ramsey to put on a helmet. He drifts a lot, so it kicks up a lot of sand, and the bad guys can't see. And Shaw is up above with a sniper rifle, and he's like, huh, this is interesting. And Dom just drives off the cliff. Then his car rolls like 100 times and totally breaks, and there's metal flying and shrapnel everywhere. But he and Ramsey are completely fine. Team Dom finally catches a break, and Roman and Tej talk about how they think Ramsey is attractive. You guys got no shot. Ramsey observes that Dom's family is very loyal to each other, and she joins the team. Apparently, the God's Eye thing is in this city in the Middle East, so they all fly over there. While on the plane, Dom tells Brian the bravest thing he can do is be a good family man. And I think that's a good thing to say to somebody in Brian's situation. Brian likes the thrill of all the crazy racing and spy stuff they do, but he needs to put that aside and be a good partner to Mia and dad to their kids. See, Dom may have started out as a criminal and stuff, but now he's got a clean slate and he's got good values. So they get to the Middle Eastern city, and Tej and Roman are like staring at Ramsey since she's in a bikini, and they start like calling dibs and playing rock, paper, scissors on who gets to flirt with her, and Letty's like, you two are the dumbest guys ever. They meet this guy who gives them like the mission details, and Team Dom ends up dressing all fancy so they can blend in at this like rich people party in the building where the God's Eye thing is. Dom and Letty have a moment where she's in a red dress and he gives her the look, and her vibe is like, yeah, focus on the mission, Dom. So all the Team Dom people start their spy mission. Letty gets into a bedroom and helps Tej hack into the building's security system. Meanwhile, Tej tells Roman to shine bright, and Roman starts acting like a total clown and distracting everybody on the main floor. Then Dom and Brian get into this vault where there's like this ultra cool car where it goes 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds, and they only made 7 of them in the whole world and blah blah blah. But then Letty has a run-in with some guards and this muscle lady who's like the chief guard, and the muscle lady is in a dress. So Letty is fighting all these guards and Roman is still being a clown, and Letty fights them some more and Roman is still being a clown, and Tej is like, are you serious? And then mistakes are made and the security is activated, so Dom and Brian get locked in. Then the muscle lady fights Letty even though they're both wearing fancy dresses. Roman is still somehow being an absolute total mega clown until Letty and the muscle lady fight so hard they fall off the railing and smash stuff on the main floor where everyone can see. Then it's really crazy time because Tej releases the security and a bad guy shows up, so Tej shows Ramsey he's actually got fight moves, and Dom and Brian get in the ultra cool car and drive it on the main floor, but Shaw gets there and attacks them, and so Dom is like, we gotta get out of here, so I'm just gonna drive out the window. Dom drives the car out of the skyscraper and goes crashing down into another skyscraper. Oh my god. The second skyscraper has a lot of like scaffolding and stuff, and I think it's under construction, and Dom's driving so fast he can't slow down, so he keeps driving the car through skyscraper number 2 and down into skyscraper number 3. There's this big fancy art gallery situation in skyscraper number 3, and the ultra cool car smashes through all of it, and there's no more skyscrapers to crash into, so Dom and Brian dive out of the vehicle, and the ultra cool car flies out skyscraper number 3 and goes splat and is super duper busted. Luckily, Brian got the chip since the chip was in the car. Wow. Then they use the God's Eye thing to track down Shaw. So Dom and Brian confront Shaw and he's like, oh, you and your friends are here to get me, huh? And Dom's like, I don't have friends. I've got family. But Shaw's like, but I've got a lot of friends. And Jakande and the terrorist guys show up, so Team Dom has to run away, and Jakande gets the God's Eye thing. Mr. Nobody gets hit, so they turn him over to some special medical people, and Dom's like, if we're gonna have a war with these guys, we gotta do it in the place we know. So they go back to Los Angeles. Now that's the only part of this movie where I'm like, I don't know about this. Wouldn't you want a war to not happen where your friends and innocent people could get hurt and collateral damage if you have the option? Just my 2 cents. Brian calls Mia and he's like, hey, this might go bad. If something happens to me, you gotta move on and be strong for the kid and whatever. But Mia's like, shut up, dude. We're having another kid. You gotta get it together and wrap up the whole Shaw terrorism situation so you can come home for good. Well, at least they're on the same page now. Then Dom goes into a garage and gets his car and he's like, one last ride. And there's a lot of rock music and he gears up and I'm like, oh yeah. We see this montage of Dom and Brian and Shaw all loading up their guns and grenades and getting in their cars, and it's like time for the final battle, you know? So this Shakande guy is in a helicopter above downtown Los Angeles with the God's Eye chip in the helicopter. So they can track Dom like anywhere basically. They send Shaw to take care of Dom, then Jakande tracks down Ramsey. Everyone in Team Dom is in cars driving around. Jakande has like this drone aircraft thing with guns on it, so he's using that to shoot at Team Dom and cause a lot of mayhem. The drone is like shooting missiles at Team Dom, and they've got a lock on Brian's car, and Ramsey's in there with Brian. So they do this complicated stunt where Brian drifts in his car, and Roman and Tej drift in their car, so Ramsey gets out of Brian's car and into Roman and Tej's car while she's uploading this program to shut down God's Eye. Then Brian dives out of his car before it gets blown up by a missile. Dom and Shaw meet up on the roof of a parking garage. They charge at each other again with their cars and make it so they crash one on top of the other. Meanwhile, Hobbs is still in the hospital, but he sees on TV that police are responding to the terrorism and war stuff going on downtown. Then there's this awesome part where Hobbs gets up out of his hospital bed and he's looking out the window like, I can't just stay here in the hospital. I gotta help Team Dom. And his daughter's like, what's going on? And Hobbs says, Daddy's gotta go to work, and he flexes his muscle arm so hard that his arm cast breaks. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's not just ridiculous, it's funny ridiculous. Then Dom and Shaw grab like metal stuff out of their cars and they finally have the bald guy fight I've been waiting for this whole movie. Back on the streets, things are getting more complicated since the police are out and about trying to figure out what's going on, while Jakande is just shooting missiles everywhere. Roman and Tej and Ramsey have to dive out of their car next since Jakande is trying to blow up Ramsey, so Ramsey gets in Letty's car. Meanwhile, Brian is in like a warehouse or something and the martial arts guy is chasing him, and the martial arts guy can also do parkour apparently, so that's a problem. The martial arts guy gets to Brian and they fight even more, and they're falling down stairs and the martial arts guy is doing cartwheels and stuff, but Brian eventually finds a carabiner that's got a rope tied to a heavy thing, and he snaps the carabiner on the martial arts guy, and Brian kicks the heavy thing into an elevator shaft, so the martial arts guy gets pulled into an elevator shaft and he falls and goes splat. Meanwhile, Letty and Ramsey are driving away from the drone and it's looking bad, but Hobbs shows up in an ambulance and he drives the ambulance off a bridge and smashes it into the drone, and the drone gets busted. Then Hobbs takes his super huge pistol and shoots the drone in the head. So Jakande and his helicopter pilot are like, uh-oh, no more drone. Then Hobbs starts walking around with a Gatling gun and Ramsey turns off God's Eye and the military has shown up, so it's finally looking bad for the terrorists. Oh yeah, by the way, the bald guy fight is still happening. They've lost their weapons and they're just using punches and kicks now. They both hit each other pretty hard and Jakande finds the parking garage they're on and he shoots a missile at it with his helicopter. It damages the parking garage concrete and Dom says to Shaw, the thing about street fights is the street always wins. And he stomps on the concrete and Shaw falls down like several stories as the parking garage crumbles beneath him. Then Hobbs shows up and he's shooting at Jakande's helicopter with a Gatling gun. Dom finds a bag full of grenades in his car, so he gets back in the car and drives through the wreckage and jumps the car off a ramp and tries to crash into the helicopter, but they see it, so Dom's car only skims the bottom of the helicopter. But he managed to get the bag of grenades hooked on the helicopter, and Hobbs sees that, so even though Hobbs ran out of Gatling gun ammo, he still got a super huge pistol, so he uses that to shoot the bag of grenades, and it goes kablamo, and Jakande is deadzo. But Dom just had this terrible crash and it's not looking good for him, so Letty tells him about how she remembers everything, including when they got married in a private ceremony. So Dom wakes up and everything is good and calm and peaceful now. Then Hobbs takes Shaw to jail and says bye-bye. Then Dom and his family are on the beach and Ramsey's part of it now and everything is all nice. Brian and Mia play near the water with their kid, and the rest of Team Dom has a moment where they process how this is it. Brian is out of the game permanently. He's not going to be part of missions with Team Dom anymore, since he's going to focus on being a dad and partner to Mia instead. Later, Dom is driving around and he sees Brian at an intersection. He says to himself, I used to live life a quarter mile at a time, and I think that's why we're brothers, because you did too. No matter where you are, whether it's a quarter mile away or halfway across the world, you'll always be with me and you'll always be my brother. And there's a montage of the moments during all the Fast and Furious movies with Brian, and they drive off and the movie ends. Now, those of you who have listened to this whole thing may have noticed that I didn't say anything until now about what happened to the Brian actor. I think what's important is that even though the Brian actor died in an accident before filming was done, and that's really sad, they somehow finished the movie and they put a respectful tribute to the Brian character at the end, and a lot of people really liked the way they closed things out. Even somebody who hadn't heard about what happened to the Brian actor would probably be like, wow, this movie is awesome. So the people who made the movie should give themselves a pat on the back. I'm sure they already did since the movie made a ton of money. This is the best Fast and Furious movie. The action is super crazy in an intense and funny way. All the characters get their moments, and I actually felt pretty invested in the characters on this one. This movie is not for kids since it's way too violent, but it could be okay for teenagers or grown-ups since Team Dom works for the government now, and it's got good messages about how family is more important than thrill-seeking, even if the thrills you seek are really fun.